Hello everyone, hope you're having a great day. Tonight, everything changes for Toan and Tu Diem. A quiet walk home turns into a sudden robbery, a fall on a wet road, and a moment that pushes Toan to run through the night, fearing he may have lost Tu Diem forever. Today, we're going to explore this tense and emotional turning point in their story, where fear, instinct, and care collide in just a few minutes on a dark street. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. Cold wind cuts across the road as Tu Diem and Toan walk along the rain-soaked street. Dusk is settling in. The chill slips through their thin layers, clinging to skin and shoulders. Puddles on the road reflect streetlights, trembling with each raindrop. Toan pulls his collar higher and slows his pace. His breath shows clearly in the cold air, steady but heavy. Tu Diem walks beside him and notices right away. She does not ask. She glances at him, then looks across the street. Between a row of low, aging houses, she spots a small clothing shop. The sign is modest, the letters slightly faded, but warm yellow light spills out, steady and inviting, standing out against the grey rain and fading evening. The glass is fogged with moisture, yet inside looks tidy, clothes arranged neatly. Tu Diem stops for a moment. She looks again, then lightly touches Toan's hand. She tells him to go inside and take a look, her tone firm, leaving no room for refusal. They push the door open. A small bell rings and fades. Warm air wraps around them at once, slowly pushing the cold away. The sound of rain dulls behind the glass. The space is small but orderly. Yellow lights are bright enough to show every seam and stitch. Clothes hang close together, sorted by color and size. Tu Diem scans the racks, quick but careful. She pulls a jacket from a nearby rail and hands it to Toan. She stands close, saying little. She watches him slip his arms in, pull the zipper up, and adjust the collar out of habit. When he straightens, she steps forward to fix the collar properly. Her movements are calm and sure. She smooths the shoulders and straightens the fold on his chest. Her eyes light up when the jacket fits just right. Toan looks at himself in the mirror. He turns slightly, tries the hood, then lets it fall back. He says the jacket is warm. His voice is low and hesitant, as if he is not used to being cared for in this way. Tu Diem smiles. She says he looks good. Nothing more. She reaches for a pair of black pants and holds them next to the jacket. She places both items side by side, steps back half a pace to see the whole picture. The colors match. The fit works. She nods. The shop owner waits nearby. Tu Diem turns and asks about jackets for an elderly person. She explains she needs something warm, with a high collar, easy to wear, no bright colors, no complicated design. The owner nods and points to a row of dark padded coats with thick fabric and solid zippers. Tu Diem walks over. She touches each one, presses the padding to check thickness, pulls the zipper to hear it glide smoothly. She asks about size, weight, height. Numbers form quietly in her head. She chooses a dark one, high collar, proper length, sleeves not too wide. She imagines the old woman wearing it on cold nights by the stove, moving slowly, standing close to the fire. She thinks of a slightly bent back and careful steps. She wants the jacket warm but not heavy, windproof but easy to take off. She nods to herself. Toan stands beside her in silence, watching every detail. He recognizes that careful habit. He knows her situation is not easy. He knows every purchase costs thought and restraint. Gratitude rises, heavy but warm. He does not speak it, but it shows in his eyes. When Tu Diem goes back to the counter, he reaches for the bag without being asked. Tu Diem asks if the jacket can be exchanged if it does not fit. The owner nods. She pays. Her hand does not shake. Inside, she feels lighter, as if she has set down a weight she cannot name. She takes the bag and turns to Toan. He thanks her and says she chose well. His voice is soft but steady. They decide Toan will wear the new jacket right away. He puts it on. The lining touches his skin, holding heat instantly. Warmth spreads quickly, not only from the fabric. The shop is small. The racks are close. Rain keeps falling outside. In that narrow space, they feel a simple kind of joy. No calculation, no exchange, just giving. They leave the shop as the afternoon fades. The rain has softened. The wet road reflects yellow lights in long streaks. The bag is carried carefully. They walk faster to get home before dark. They do not talk much, but their steps stay in rhythm. Sunset sinks low. Smoke rises around the small earth-walled house. Tu Diem and Toan step into the yard. The old woman is bent over, fixing a vegetable bed disturbed by chickens. On the stove, a pot of cassava is boiling. Steam rises with a familiar starchy smell. They greet her. She looks up and smiles. They set the bag down. Toan helps with the garden bed. Tu Diem goes into the kitchen, drains the cassava and lifts it into a basket, moving slowly to avoid burning her hands. The old woman stands beside her and shows her how to keep the cassava from breaking apart. All three work together. They sit around the fire. Hot cassava breaks open, steam rising. The cold evening pulls back. Tu Diem takes the jacket from the bag and hands it to the old woman, saying it is to keep her warm. Her voice trembles slightly. The old woman puts it on. It fits. The collar covers her neck. She looks down, then up. Her eyes brighten. She says the jacket is beautiful. She says Tu Diem is thoughtful. She says even with little, she still cares for others. Her voice slows and catches. Toan stands and shows his new outfit, turning once. The old woman laughs and says he looks more handsome. The laughter warms the kitchen. The air lightens. The old woman invites Tu Diem to stay for dinner. She says the three of them should eat together. Tu Diem nods and looks at Toan. He nods back. The old woman looks at them and says it feels like she has gained a daughter. Her voice shakes. Tu Diem lowers her head. Tears fall slowly. Smoke rises from the stove. The fire flickers. In that moment, they find family. Not by blood, but by kindness and connection. The cold outside does not reach them. Dinner ends slowly without anyone rushing to stand up. The old woman eats little but keeps watching Tu Diem's bowl. When she sees it emptying, she adds more food, telling her to eat well because the night is getting colder. Tu Diem smiles and says she is already full, but she takes a few more bites so the old woman will not worry. Toan sits nearby, leaning lightly against a wooden post, quietly observing. The small kitchen feels more familiar than he expected. After the meal, Tu Diem gathers the dishes on her own. She does not let the old woman do much. She rolls up her sleeves and washes each bowl in an old metal basin. The water is cold, but her hands move steadily. The old woman stands beside her, drying and placing the bowls carefully on the rack. Their conversation stays simple. The rain has lasted for days. The road is slippery. Tu Diem nods and says she will be careful. Toan clears the table, pushes the chairs against the wall, and gathers leftover firewood into a corner. He looks out into the yard. It is fully dark now. Only the smell of wet soil and a cold breeze remain. He thinks about walking Tu Diem home, but she speaks first. She says she will go ahead. The road is not far. She does not want to trouble them. The old woman holds Tu Diem's hand for a moment, longer than before. Her hand is dry and cold. She tells her to walk slowly, avoid slippery spots, and come back if anything happens. Tu Diem bows slightly, lifts her bag onto her shoulder, adjusts the strap, and steps into the yard. Toan stands at the doorway watching. The light from inside stretches behind her, then fades as she turns into the alley. The road home is much quieter now. Streetlights are far apart, leaving long dark stretches. The pavement is still wet, rainwater spreading in uneven patches. Tu Diem walks steadily, pulling her collar higher, gripping the strap of her bag, watching her steps. A motorbike engine suddenly roars from behind, cutting through the silence. The sound is sharp and urgent. The bike closes in fast. Before she can turn, a strong force yanks the bag off her shoulder. The strap snaps. She stumbles, heart racing. The bike speeds away. Instinct takes over. Tu Diem turns and runs a few steps after it. She thinks only of the bag. Inside are her papers, money, things she cannot afford to lose. But the road is slick from the rain. Her foot slips hard. She loses balance completely. She falls onto the road. Her shoulder hits first, then her knees. Pain surges through her body, leaving her dizzy. Everything goes dark for a moment. Sounds blur and fade. She lies still, unsure if she can stand right away. Soon voices rise. Footsteps rush closer. Headlights and phone lights flash across the road. Someone helps Tu Diem sit up, asking repeatedly if she is hurt. Others chase after the motorbike ahead. The thief is stopped not far away. Several local men hold him down near the roadside. The bag lies nearby. Someone picks it up and brings it back, asking if it is hers. Tu Diem nods, hands trembling. She checks quickly. Her wallet, papers, phone are all there. She releases a long breath, exhausted but relieved. Someone calls the police. People stay and wait. Tu Diem is guided to the side of the road and sits against a wall. Her knee burns, her shoulder aches, but she is conscious. Someone offers her water. She takes a small sip, the cold sliding down her throat. Meanwhile, back at the house, Toan sits by the stove with the old woman. She talks about old memories, but Toan cannot focus. A deep unease rises in him. His heart beats faster. He stands, then sits again, eyes fixed on the door. He tells the old woman something feels wrong. He says he suddenly feels anxious about Tu Diem, as if something has happened. His voice is tense. The old woman startles, sets the bowl down and looks at him closely. She says the night is wet, the road slippery, and it is dangerous for a young woman to walk alone. She urges him to go find her immediately. Toan grabs his jacket and runs out. Cold wind hits his face. The road is dark and wet. He runs fast, scanning both sides, calling Tu Diem's name. When he sees lights and people gathered ahead, his chest tightens. He pushes through the crowd and sees Tu Diem sitting by the roadside, someone beside her. He calls her name. She looks up. Seeing Toan, she freezes for a second, then exhales, as if letting go of something heavy. Toan kneels in front of her, asking again and again if she is hurt, his hands trembling as he checks her shoulder and knees. Tu Diem says she is fine. She slipped and fell. The bag was recovered. The thief was caught by locals and handed over to the police. Only then does Toan truly relax. His breathing slows. He holds her hand tightly, saying nothing. The police arrive, take statements and lead the thief away. People slowly disperse. Before leaving, Tu Diem and Toan bow and thank everyone who helped. When the street grows quiet again, Toan helps Tu Diem stand. He tells her he will walk her home. This time he stays close, matching her pace. Tu Diem nods and grips her bag firmly. They walk in silence, but the space between them has changed. Closer, steadier. Streetlights reflect on the wet road. The night is still cold, but they no longer feel alone.
Sau bữa tối ấm áp ở nhà bà cụ, Từ Diễm quyết định đi bộ về nhà một mình, tin rằng con đường sẽ yên tĩnh an toàn. Đêm lạnh, đường vẫn còn ướt vì mưa. Trên đường về, một chiếc xe máy bất ngờ lao tới và một tên trộm giật mạnh túi xách của cô. Từ Diễm theo bản năng đuổi theo, nhưng con đường trơn trượt khiến cô ngã mạnh xuống đất, bị thương và hoảng sợ. Hàng xóm nhanh chóng chạy đến giúp Từ Diễm và bắt được tên trộm trước khi hắn tẩu thoát. Túi xách của cô được tìm thấy và tên trộm bị giao cho cảnh sát. Trong khi đó, ở nhà, Toàn bị bao trùm bởi nỗi sợ hãi khó hiểu, tin vào trực giác của mình. Anh vội vã đi tìm Từ Diễm. Khi đến nơi, anh thấy cô an toàn, được bao quanh bởi những người đã giúp đỡ cô. Thở phào nhẹ nhõm, Toán đưa Từ Diễm về nhà. Mối quan hệ của họ ngày càng thêm bền chặt sau đêm kinh hoàng đó.